And next, we got a big update in the Elijah McClain case. That is important to go over. So the grand jury returns 32-count indictment in the Elijah McClain case. 5 people are named in the indictment, including Aurora police officers and paramedics. More than 2 years after Elijah McClain's death, following a confrontation with Aurora police officers, a statewide jury returned a 32-count indictment against 5 people, including 2 current Aurora police officers and 1 former officer. I'm thankful that they saw what I saw, that he should have never been stopped. Shanine McClain, Elijah's mother, I expect prison for my son's murderers and their accomplices. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser announced the findings of the indictment, which turned last Thursday. Those indicted include current Aurora officer Randy Rodema, Nathan Woodyard, and former officer Jason Rosenblatt, in addition to the 2 paramedics that were on the scene, Peter Sechunik and Jeremy Cooper. All 4 of the current employees have been placed on unpaid leave, according to the city. Each of the 5 people indicted face 1 count of manslaughter and 1 count of criminally negligent homicide. So, first off, the good news is city money is not going to these people while they wait for this case to progress further in a trial. Then the next part is, I am curious about how this did not end up being a murder, because from the police standpoint, this feels very similar. Rodema and Rosenblatt also face a count of second-degree assault with intent to cause bodily injury and 1 count of violence. There's a sentencing enhancer related to that assault charge. Sechunik and Cooper also face a count of second-degree assault with intent to cause serious bodily injury. They face a second assault charge for recklessly causing injury with a deadly weapon, which in this case is related to the use of the sedative ketamine. They also face a sentencing enhancer for both those assault charges. So they all turned themselves into the Glendale Police Department Wednesday afternoon. They were processed on their warrants, posted bond, and were released according to police. Rodema turned himself in Wednesday evening, posted bond and released as well. On August 24th, 2019, oh yeah, this is just a little recap here. So next point that needs to be made here is the original Attorney General, Dave Young in Aurora, probably most known for being the most fucking corrupt police department in the Denver metro surrounding area. They actually, his investigation cleared everyone of any wrongdoing. Seriously, how fucked up is that? But that needs to be a point that needs to be reminded of. And another thing that needs to be said here is the fact that the people who are responsible for that original investigation that cleared everyone involved of any wrongdoing, no one from that was charged. And this is just how disconnected police are from right and wrong. The Aurora Police Association Board of Directors released a statement Wednesday after learning about the indictment, saying in part that their officers did nothing wrong. The full statement is below. Shit. So I'm going to say that first off, this is pretty positive news. It's not a perfect ruling, as it leaves out murder charges and charging people for who are responsible for messing up that first investigation. So I think in this moment, I think Phil Weiser has at least protected himself for another election cycle. As for Dave Young, I think it's crystal clear that if you're serious about wanting better for the Aurora Police Department, that he's going to have to go. Flat out. The next point is this wouldn't have been possible without the people who were out in the streets all last summer during the George Floyd protest, making sure that Elijah McClain got included as well, and that response of direct action, by the way, led to make Governor Polis reopen the investigation. So this is actually more of a more tangible victory than unlike what some people try to sell you as victories. So that right there is a good thing. But we also have to keep in mind that the extra national attention has to be given credit for as well, especially Coach Michael Malone and many of the other Denver Nuggets who wore Justice for Elijah McClain shirts at the bubble last year. That was also played a role in moving things forward as well, even though one reason why this took nearly 2 years as opposed to maybe this happening a few months sooner was the pandemic excuse was laid out as reasoning for this investigation for not coming to a close soon. So those two things coupled together were really huge. And I know that the PSL were very big organizers in these protests, not only in Denver, but in Aurora as well. And without that organizing for direct action, we would not be in this position today where the people responsible for killing Elijah McClain now have a chance to be charged for their crime. And the other great point of this story is the fact that with Elijah being a model citizen, mainstream media cannot find ways to smear him in the way that they do with other black men, unarmed, that get killed by police. In fact, the only knock that they could put on him was having a hood on late at night. But if you knew anything about the guy, massage therapist who enjoyed playing the violin, you knew that he was a model citizen. And I think having that narrative also probably helped swing this case in his favor as well. Even with a couple things that have turned out better in this, in addition to that. So, as I usually like to say, it's better for this case to take place outside of Aurora once again. I would. Wait, no. I think. I don't think it'll make a big difference whether you have it take place in Denver or Aurora. But if you use a more. But it may not be in the best interest of the case if you move it to a more white-dominated suburb like Littleton, Parker, or Broomfield. But as long as it stays in the Denver or Aurora, I really do believe that this case will be, whether it's in one of those two cities, I don't think it'll have a big effect on what happens with the jury. And what I'm going to say is I think that what the ruling class has realized is that they're probably just going to have to, in the court, charge more of these killer police officers other crimes. Because I think even though it's easy to get pessimistic about this case being charged to this extent, I do think what the ruling class realizes now is if they charge these officers more for these crimes, it's going to help prevent mutiny, rioting. It may even help prevent revolution. Because if you start to charge officers with a higher frequency, it's going to feed into the belief that the system can still be reformed. However, if you don't believe, like me, that this policing in this country is beyond reform, then I think you're going to see right through that. So I think that reasoning alone is why I'm more optimistic that at minimum the police are more likely to get charged for their crimes in court. I could see an outcome where the paramedics may get let off the hook for their involvement, but at least it'll be a positive enough of a mixed outcome to where you prevent outrage. because if you've been following along since the George Floyd protest last summer, I think as long as the threat of rioting is in the back of your state and federal law, I think you're going to see a bit more of these officers get charged as they do their part to prevent uh, the policing system from getting transformed. But overall, I consider this a somewhat to mostly positive outcome, and I feel more optimistic than I did in the past that uh, officers, these officers will get uh, convicted in court for the reasons I've just recently stated. But it just won't stop there. I feel like Elijah McClain will get some form of justice